Hello good yo-yo people, I'm Nate. This is Let's Talk Yo-Yo. Today we're going to talk about responsive play in 2019. Alright, so I've been thinking about this topic for a while. I've been playing a lot of responsive. I'm holding here a soon-to-be released, this is a pre-production prototype of the Respawn by Squared YoYos. This is our responsive yo-yo. When there's a full production of this, I will have a review of it, I am certain. But I've been playing with this. I've been playing with quite a few other responsive yo-yos. I love the Weekender. I love the Corco, Alley Cat B, and a bunch of others that are just so fantastic. But those have kind of been my three rotations a lot lately. And as well as the Deep State as well by One Drop. I have the Copper Edition. It's fantastic. So yeah, I've been thinking about this topic of what does it look like for responsive play in 2019. But I think to really understand what it looks like now, you kind of have to go backwards a little bit. Would you go back with me in the Wayback Machine? I'm going to talk about my story just a little bit. I got started in yo-yo when I was in middle school in the 90s. And there was the Omega boom and all that. And so if you're around my age, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so unresponsive play wasn't even a thing, understanding a bind return, it wasn't really in our vocabulary. You had to have a responsive yo-yo. My first really decent that I saved all my money for, bought at the mall kiosk, was a Henry's Viper. So if you know what I'm talking about, that dates me, okay? All right, so that was a responsive yo-yo. Now the gap was adjustable, so you could technically have probably played it unresponsive, but I didn't even know that that's what you could do. So that was the gateway into yo-yoing, and I put that down for a little while. I kind of missed the steps between that and unresponsive. So when I got back into about 10 years ago, I was kind of like, oh my goodness, what is this whole unresponsive play thing? How do I do a bind? I mean, all those things I had to kind of feel like I had to start brand new. But I had already a basis, right, of tug responsive tricks, right? And so that was my foundation. And I think as I'm building tricks even today and developing still a style, I feel at times, a lot of that early foundation of when I was in middle school, which seems like forever ago, which it really was, is part of my style even today, that sort of responsive trick. I'm actually kind of excited to see companies kind of make a modern performance, modern playability, and with the standards that we have with machining and so on, that's responsive. And so I'm excited for yo-yos like the Respawn here and others that really are kind of taking it to the next level of saying, okay, how can we make this even better, but still responsive, still have that nostalgic sort of feel. Now, of course, with the resurgence of even things like fixed axle and so on, there's been just so much trick theory and so on that has changed, where you're doing things like stalls and you're doing those more sort of modern fixed axle tricks that you can still do on a responsive yo-yo. Now, flash forward now to 2019, I'm seeing a lot of players who really don't start responsive, and if they are using a responsive yo-yo, it is a segue to unresponsive. A lot of yo-yos, in fact, they journey with you, right? And you can have, you can swap out the bearing for something like a slimline bearing to a full-size bearing. I think that's great. I know some people that have gotten into yo-yo that they just picked up an unresponsive yo-yo, and the first thing they had to learn how to do was a bind for their first trick, really. And that's interesting to me, because that's not so many of the older generation's story of, how do we look at yo-yo differently because of our basis of responsive play. I think it's smart to always have responsive tricks in your portfolio. For one, I think responsive play makes you a smoother player. You have to be a little bit more nimble and a little bit more sensitive to the actual, gap and response of the yo-yo itself. It also opens up a whole new platform to what can you actually do with this if you actually stuck with just responsive. If it wasn't just viewed as a segue to just getting to, as a means to an end, to unresponsive yo-yoing. And I think that's where I kind of see in 2019 the building blocks, the birth of something new with responsive yo-yo. I'm seeing more and more players that are focused a little bit more on that's the kind of yo-yo they're gonna pick up and do tricks with, and that's what they're gonna showcase with their style. And so maybe responsive play is becoming not just sort of a novelty as sort of a fad of, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and pick up this every once in a while, but maybe something I can see more players gravitating to and saying, this is going to define my actual style of tricks. And so, I don't know, I think that's kind of cool. I hope to see more of that. I hope to see more players really say, this is where I'm gonna focus my my tricks. And I think there's opportunity to bring that to the competition scene. And I think we've already begun to see that. Kyle Nations, you know, performing this last year, some of his tricks on stage and doing really well with a responsive yo-yo. And I want to see more of that. I really do, because I enjoy seeing responsive play. I know that there's a lot of challenge in using a responsive yo-yo. And I think those of you who've picked up one and really tried seriously trying to throw one and build on that and build original tricks from that, you know how challenging it can be. And so looking at that's always enjoyable for me to watch personally. And so, and that's really why I still go to contests. That's why I still enjoy watching the competition scene or videos on YouTube or whatever, because I think yo-yoing should be enjoyable and fun. And I think responsive yo-yos can really benefit you if you're kind of in that sort of like funk, right? If you're just not really having fun and you're taking the yo-yo maybe a little too serious because it's just a toy, right? More than anything. Anyways, that's just kind of my thoughts. I've been rumbling around. I'm curious what you have to say. Do you have a modern responsive yo-yo? What do you like to see as it kind of moves forward throughout, you know, into the future? Where do you see responsive play going? Go ahead and leave a comment. I would love to hear your opinion on what you think responsive play looks like for 2019 moving forward. All right, and as usual, good day and good yo-yo.